to your river. I will come to your river. I will come to your river.
So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Diaspora Solidarity Lab's debut event, Ibeyi Casting Spells. The DSL is a multi-institutional Black feminist partnership that supports solidarity work in Black and ethnic studies conducted by undergraduates, graduate students, faculty members, and community partners who are committed to transformative justice and accountable to communities beyond the Western Academy. My name is Tatiana Esh. I'm the project manager of the DSL and will be moderating tonight's conversation. I'm joined by one of our organizers, Dr. Yomaira C. Figueroa-Vásquez and Lisa-Kaindé Diaz of Ibeyi. Yomaira C. Figueroa-Vásquez is an Afro-Puerto Rican writer, teacher, and scholar from Hoboken, New Jersey. She is Associate Professor of Global Afro-Diaspora Studies at Michigan State University and the author of the award-winning Decolonizing Diasporas, Radical Mappings of Afro-Atlantic Literature. She earned her MA and PhD in Comparative Ethnic Studies at the University of California, Berkeley, and her BA in English, Puerto Rican, and Hispanic Caribbean Studies and Women's and Gender Studies at Rutgers University, New Brunswick. Her published work can be found in Hypatia, Decolonization, Central Journal, Small Acts, Frontiers Journal, Hispanophilia, Contemporánea, and SX Salon. She is the founder of the MSU Women of Color Initiative, Proyecto Palabras PR, the Mentoring Underrepresented Scholars in English program, MUSE, and the Digital Material Project, Taller and Electric Marinage. Dr. Figueroa-Vásquez was a Duke University Mellon Mays SITPA Fellow and a Ford Foundation postdoctoral fellow. She is currently a Society for the Humanities Fellow at Cornell University and was recently awarded a 2022 to 2024 $2 million Mellon Foundation Higher Learning Grant for the Collaborative Digital Humanities Community Project, Diaspora Solidarities Lab. Since their self-titled debut album 7 years ago, Ibeyi's stunning parallel harmonies and integral minimalist Latin percussion has shared a message of power and possibility across airways around the globe, cutting through an individualist framework that emphasizes self over society and success over soul. Ibeyi's artistic expressions of visuals and sound broke through the cultural zeitgeist to become one of the most original and recognizable sounds of our time. An ever-evolving duo, they are unafraid to be in their multitudes, at once sisters, daughters, icons, philosophers, composers, singers, fashion gods, and prophets. It is no surprise then that Spell 31 speaks to us as a prophecy, one we are on the cusp of realizing if only we dare to embrace the magic and step into the supernatural that Ibeyi so easily inhabits. Their former albums were portals. Ibeyi worked through grief, dismay, family, and love with Gothic gospel frequencies. It was a confrontation with the personal. Ash, their second album, grappled with the realities of race and gender. It examined the human conditioning, weaving West African and Yoruban tradition into its message. It grappled with the political. Spell 31 embraces the whole. It is the other side of the portal, an anchor when we feel our most aimless and adrift. With the world still reeling in the aftermath of a pandemic, another racial reckoning, climate-fueled existential dread, and moral decay accelerated by crumbling democratic structures, Ibeyi's Spell 31 is their boldest offering yet, an antidote to apathy in a divided world. Ethereal, crystallized signature Ibeyi harmonies are fused with gospel, persuasive percussion, momentous, deeply resonant bass, and electronic neo-soul expressions, transporting us into a sublime rawness that is defined by Richard Russell's precise hand and synthesized into astonishing clarity. Spell 31 casts with conviction, transmuting nihilism into sagoma, binaries into endless dualities, moral austerity into abundance. A subversive and halcyonic manifesto from queens of a foreign land, Ibeyi occupies the liminal space, the space between life and death, past and present, right and wrong, and calls for the interior revelations that create the systemic revolutions we long for. We are invited into a new world where the hewers of wood and drawers of water are sacred, where the divine heals the divided, and growth is worth more than gold. The prophecy is a call to action. It is not yet too late to be the person you always thought you could be. Spell 31 is spirit setting, reminding us that meaning of life can only be achieved through the magic of living. One of my own favorite Ibeyi songs is Deathless, the meaning of which Lisa-Kaindé described as living in this moment. Whatever happened or happens does not matter because now we are deathless. So thank you everyone for coming out. I would also like to acknowledge Naomi, the other half of Ibeyi, and Lisa-Kaindé's sister, who is unable to join us tonight. But without further ado, I give it away to Dr. Yomaira Figueroa-Vásquez.
That was incredible. Thank you so much, Tatiana, for that beautiful introduction. And thank you so much, Lisa-Kaindé, for being here with us tonight. I know it's 10 p.m. where you are. We're here on East Coast time, so it's a little earlier, but we really appreciate it. This conversation has been many months in the making. I don't know if you know how it kind of came to be, but someone on your team in California had found my book, where I had written about you in decolonizing diasporas, and I had written about Ibeyi and about the album Ibeyi in the final kind of chapter of the book as a way to think about futures and pasts. And one of the things that I wrote about it is Ibeyi's future works make space for us to faithfully witness and remember the past, to strengthen us for present struggles and to bring forth different futures. And for me, listening to Ibeyi, I remember being in Puerto Rico, driving in the car through different landscapes, listening to the album and feeling a kind of just a vibration through my body about the present state of the ecology of our ancestors, of our present, and the possibility for futures, and feeling really compelled to add a new chapter to my book that I was finishing to be able to write about this album and about the visuality of your work. And so one of the things I guess we can open up, because the first album seems like such a sacred space, right? You opened up this completely new realm for us in terms of thinking about contemporary music. I wanted to ask a little bit about the practice of bringing your ancestors and your loved ones into your work. And in doing so, kind of messing with time, right? Like the ancestors, bringing them into the present.
It's so weird because we never really thought about it like that when we started making music. And then it became more and more like obvious to us that that's where we should always be, that was our place, right? Being able to mix the past and what we want the future to be in the present. And what is crazy is I think the reason why our music is like that is because before writing my own songs and then creating the band with Naomi, our mother took us to a Yoruba choir and we started singing Yoruba songs every weekend. Actually, it was on Fridays afternoon. So after school, we would go to the Yoruba choir, and we fell in love with the songs, but it also became quite obvious that that was what music was about. I don't really know how to explain. It's just that feeling that you get when you sing a Yoruba song, when everybody's singing it around, when the drums are hitting hard, and you feel like in communion with everything, with everybody, with yourself, with your culture, with everything. And I feel like because we knew that feeling, suddenly a year after, when I started writing my own songs, I knew the path, right? Suddenly it was like, how do I reconnect to that? And then really quickly, the Yoruba just fell out of me too and started mixing itself with the broken English, because at the time I was 14, my English was worse than now. And that's how it happened. But also, you know, in Cuba and with Cuban music, our dad was a Cuban musician. Our dad was a master in percussion, and he always used to say, listen to old people, listen to the old masters. So he also somehow gave us that the knowledge that actually there's so much culture and beauty that is in the past and that is in tradition, and how do you actually free yourself a bit from tradition so that you can bring it also into what you're doing right now. And I think the fact that we were French and Cuban and we were part of those both worlds allowed us also to have that tiny step out so that we could actually be able to embrace it into our own world. I don't know if I'm making sense, but
no, absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the things when I was like listening to albums, I was also listening to ritual music on these vinyls that I had from, you know, inherited and that I had gotten. And then I was also recognizing music, ritual, you know, music that I had heard growing up, and then realizing that sometimes it can be its own closed world, right? So if you're in a Yoruba choir or if you're practicing Lukumi, then what, you know, you have it in that world and it exists there. But one of the things, by exactly what you said, like the kind of idea of pulling from the ritual music, but not only being tied for it, freeing yourself from it, meant that, and it means that you are able to bring these elements to a larger public, to this global public, right? To be able to witness the beauty of it, even if they're not practitioners, not to dabble in it, but to revere it, right? And to be in awe.
Show its beauty.
Yeah.
To show its beauty, but also it's incredible because somehow our dad was able to do that. You know, he always mixed music, he mixed Latin jazz with hip hop, with DJs, and with Brazilian music and with African music. He always loved mixing, and so he was free in his music. So after he passed away, we were 11 when he passed away, his album, it was quite clear where the message was, you know. It was like, you need to embrace everything that feels like you, that feels like a part of you. And our music sounds and feels like us, like Naomi and I. And even sometimes when you listen to a song, you can be like, oh, that's a bit more of Naomi. And then you listen to another one, you're like, that one is a bit more like Lisa. Because it's funny also, our music really incorporates both of our worlds and our tastes.
Yeah. You know, I was at your concert years ago, but right before I was like finishing my book and I had wanted to see you in concert. So I went to DC. So I flew to DC. I was going to go to Puerto Rico. And I was like, I'm going to stop in DC. I'm going to see this concert. And it was really beautiful. It was in this
9:30?
Yes,
yes. 9:30? Yeah.
Yes. It was in June. My goddaughter was born the very next day. Like, it was like a beautiful thing. But I remember realizing at the moment how in sync you and your sister are. And you sang, you guys were singing, I Want to Be Like You. And you had said, you know, I wrote this song for my sister. I don't know, it was a beautiful, I'm gonna cry thinking about it, but it was this beautiful between you. It was a very intimate moment on stage where you were like, I wrote the song because, you know, my sister's like this and I'm like this, and sometimes I want to be like her. And I realized how much of that relationship with your sister is so deeply embedded throughout the music, and even in the kind of writing and even the different way that Spell 31 is written versus the other albums. One of the things that I wrote in the book about the sisterly love, and I'll read this little piece, and I would love to hear a little bit more about how you feel about it. But I wrote that this love is not just any kind of love, but it's a decolonial love, an ancestral love, a Black femme love, a kinship love, and a sisterhood love. It is a sustaining love that underscores the limits of the living while pointing to the abundant possibilities of finding fulfillment in ritual practice. And I mean that very broadly, like not just spiritual ritual practice, but the ritual practice of living, you know, amid and with others, right? So I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Well, that it's funny because we're twins, so we were born, you know, we were born at the same time. But you would pass us in the street and I don't think many people would think we're twins. People sometimes are like, oh, you're sisters, but we don't look alike. We don't feel like the same person. We are actually opposites. We are like two sides of one coin. And for years and years and years, there was always so much love there, and it was always so clear how much we loved each other, but we never could find our way to communicate. You know, they always say twins have their language, and it was like we spoke two different languages. And when we tried once at 11 to do a band and to make a band, it was really bad. There's actually videos of it, and it's terrifying. I always say, like,
send me the video.
Yeah, one day we need to like post them, because it's like oh my God, it gives faith for anyone that wants to do music. Because it started really bad. And then Naomi was like, you're not doing this without me. You're not gonna like record music without me. And suddenly I was like, yeah, of course. It kind of felt like obvious to me. And we started making music together and everything became clear. Why I feel like we are born together, why I feel like our paths are linked, why I feel like, we're supposed to live this life so closely and create. And suddenly our differences made sense. Suddenly Naomi being good at rhythm and me being bad at it made sense. Suddenly me being more melodic and her not caring that much about words and me being all about what made sense, right? Our weaknesses and strength made sense together. The way we challenge each other by just being each other's mirrors, especially when we make music, makes sense to me. And it's a beautiful, complex love. It's really, yeah. She says to me, which I'm really touched every time she says it, because it's so true. She says you're the true love of my life. And I really feel like that's how I feel also.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna show later on the video, Sister to Sister, and I rewatched it today and was like really struck by the visuality of it, right? The kind of the idea, you're the true love of my life, that is like the physical embodiment of what is happening, right? Yeah. There's something that is like crystallized in the lyrics, in the melody, but then also then in the visuality. And that's the other part of the work that y'all do, which is like the visuals are incredible. And I think that also is a huge difference. Like it when we're listening to older music or traditional ritual music, you have to imagine, right, what is happening in ceremony. You have to imagine what are these relationships, right? And even in contemporary kind of music that doesn't have those kinds of elements and doesn't have that influence, it's a completely different world. But then the fact that y'all add these visuals, and all of these other, right, like, and these moments where you're like, whoa, you have transported us, right?
Thank you.
What is the kind of process of bringing those visual elements to your work?
It's so important. It like changes everything. And the reason why I say that is because when it all started so the first song we put out was Oya. And I realized really quickly I wanted people to concentrate on the music. Back then we were 19. And I knew that I wanted to be taken seriously. We had, produced with Richard. We had played every single instrument that was in the album. We had written everything. Some songs I had written with my mom, but we were the creators of this, and I wanted to make sure that people wouldn't think that because we were 18 it was created for us. And I knew that weirdly I knew that showing beauty or like fashion was not a way to be fully taken seriously. And so if you look at this first music video, we're not even in the music video. It's only our shadows.
Yeah.
But we find those architects. We had a friend that was like, I know those architects, and they were not videographers. They literally used that technology to scan buildings to be able to sell buildings. And they were like, they asked us what Oya was about. And then they were like, it's fine. We're going to go to wood in London and we're going to scan the wood. And we're going to scan you like those spirits or ghosts in the middle of the woods, and we won't be able to see it. And then River, tell me when I speak too much, because I also get really passionate about this.
Yes,
okay. Then came River, and everybody was like, well, now you need to show your face because no one knows who you are. And River was the song we were announcing the album with. And so I was like, okay, but it needs to be ritualistic, one idea, simple, involving water, one take. And this this man came to the studio, and I genuinely think he's one of my visual soulmates. His name is Ed Morris. He also did the video of Mama Says and of Deathless. And he came, he listened to River. He said, this is the song I want to make a video for. And he came back a day later and he was like, I have the video. I know what it is. It is a baptism. You're going to be put underwater and then put out of water. And it's only that. And I knew he understood. Like, I remember telling him everything. Like, it needs to be simple. It needs to be captivating. One idea. I don't want like a whole storyline.
Yeah.
And when he came up with the idea, we were also excited because we knew it was going to be really, really, really special.
Yeah.
And I think the video of River, the visual of River, is half of the reason why River worked and why it like spread.
Right.
But, you know, I'm obsessed with symbolism. I'm obsessed with visual artists. I'm obsessed with putting some of that culture into Ibeyi. And I also feel like when you have the freedom and the desire to be artistic with it, it could be such a fantastic way of expressing yourself and of serving the music.
And I think like the layering of the work and the layering of the symbolism, I think is so critical in everything that you do. It's not just dabbling, right? It's not like you're cherry picking from different systems of beliefs or different things. You can tell in the work, both in the written, in the melody, the layers of the music, and then the layers of the visual, how deeply you're studying, how deeply you both know, right? Like, this is not just, you know, some type of random playing, right? Like, although it is, there is some playfulness in it. It is such a, like a serious meditation, a study, right? And I really appreciate that about the work. I think one of the things that I was thinking, and I know Tatiana definitely has something that she wants to ask too, but one of the things that I was thinking about your work, do you know that Max Roach and Abby Lincoln, We Insist Freedom Now suite, where there's one song called Prayer, Protest, Peace. And in it, Abby Lincoln is, it's one long song, and she begins with like a, like she's praying, then like a scream, right? Protest, and then peace. And I was thinking about your albums in relation to that, particularly because although they are works of art and are spiritual in nature in many ways, they're also political. And you really see that, especially in the second and third albums. It's outright, it's in your face. In the first album, it's there as well, but you need to be able to listen into it. And so I was wondering how you're able to weave in these kind of like radical political ideas. And some of them are even not that radical. Black people are beautiful and they exist, and we should love them, right? Like, but for some people that is like out of this world, right? How do you weave that in to your work, and how important is that to both of you?
I think I'm trying to think, because I want to say what's true and not what comes first. I think it comes because it's impossible not to comment on the world we are living in. And it's impossible for Naomi and I to live and tour and meet people and experience life as the women we are in the world we are in, and for it to not come out. I don't think it would be possible to be able to be as present as you want to be and as honest as you want to be with what you're creating, and it never coming out. I also think that there's many of way for it to come out. Sometimes it's through a protest song. Sometimes it's actually through something that has nothing to do with it. Sometimes it's through a love song. Sometimes it's through radical joy and doing a song that is all about escapism. I don't think there's one way of doing that, but I do believe music does that anyways. Like, I think music and experiencing music and feeling what it does in your body is one of the most radical things we could always do. It finds a way to grab you. It doesn't ask you who you are. It doesn't ask you how you're doing. It's literally like a slap and a caress at the same time. For me, it is important. I know for me, it is important to talk about the subject. I also know sometimes my sister is like, you cannot just make people cry. You also need to make people experience joy in their body and dance and sweat and like she wants us to be able to make you go through the whole spectrum of emotions, which I realized in a show is the most important thing we should do with each other. We want to make you laugh and then cry and then feel anger and then express it and then just feel pure laughter and dancing on a silly song. We want to be able to give everything, you know, a whole spectrum of it.
Yeah, so see the whole spectrum. And I mean, I think that's what we also get at your live shows.
Yes.
Right? Like at your shows, you get that whole, you know, there's these moments where you're like, and then everyone is dancing and everyone is singing and everyone, right? And you leave the elated with joy, even though you've gone through a whole range of emotions, right?
Yes.
And I think only very special artists can do that, right?
A
true artist can do that for you.
Thank you. I think for me, it's because it's all about, I want people to live hopeful. It's all about hope at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want you to live with anything else than like feeling that you lived and you're stronger and full of hope.
Yeah.
I love hearing how you talk about your sister. I also have a sister and we talk the same way. It's like two souls, like vibing into this life together at the same time. Could you talk a little bit more about like the writing process with your sister and how having like two minds like come together impacts like the lyrics and also just the creation of music in general?
Sure. Sorry, I was just plugging my phone, but I heard what you said. It is extremely interesting to work with someone else, especially someone that is really different from you. Because as I was, for example, that's just a typical example. I would be like, let's all make songs that are about crying and healing and sadness and just live it all out. And my sister at one point would be like, yeah, and what about the dancing and the joy, right? And so that's where she challenges me in going outside of my comfort zone. I also think it's really beautiful because we are trying to impress each other constantly. So we grow individually kind of to impress each other and to meet each other again every time. So I'm trying to make her like the songs. You know, today I called her and I was like, I have a new song, can I play it too? She was like, no. Like, no. She's really tough with me. She tells me, like, I think she doesn't like all of the songs I make. She's not into everything I propose. And I guess I'm the same with her. But Ibeyi is the middle, is this place where the push and pull stops at one point because it's there that we should be. And so this would never, my music would never sound the same without her. And I don't think her music would ever sound the same without me. So I guess that's what I like in Ibeyi. It's like, really without one or the other, it wouldn't work.
No, I think that's so accurate to what sisters are. We always joke like, it would be terrible to go into this world without a sister because it just makes everything so much easier. Like you have a built-in best friend.
I wasn't saying me and my sister, I have a sister, she's older than me, but and my sister was a twin. But her twin did not survive. And so then me and her, and we're 10 years apart, but we always say, I'll never defriend you. No matter what happens, you'll always be my friend. You can never be defriended by me. Anywhere, you know? And so I think that sisterhood love is so powerful. It could be complex, right? But there's something really beautiful when you sit with it, and you think about the different kind of relationship you can have, right? With someone who's your sister, especially a twin.
For sure. That's, you know, I have found the path of a lot of twins that lost a twin. And I didn't know for ages. Like one of the humans that touches me the most, he's called Infinite. And he's a singer actually, Infinite Cole. He's incredible, like incredible. And one day he said, yeah, you know, I had a twin called Destiny that passed away when we were really young. And I just understood everything about him suddenly. It like just all made sense. And it's funny because she's there next to him all the time. But it's Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and thinking about that, I am thinking about, I think we talked a little bit about sister to sister, right?
Yeah.
And I think we want to show a little bit of the video, Tatiana.
Okay.
But we also want to invite the folks who are here to put in questions. So please put your question in the Q&A. We're going to have a few minutes towards the end for you to ask Lisa a question. So please throw it, don't be shy, throw your question into the Q&A. And then, so I don't know if you want to, as Tatiana pulls this up, if you want to say something a little bit about Sister to Sister.
I had heard about a play that my friends had made that was based on an ancient ritual from India, where brides and grooms would be separated for days, and they would be washed and fed, and their eyes would be banned, they would put things on top of their eyes so they couldn't see and couldn't have any agency. Basically, for hours they would become like babies again, right? Being moved and dressed, and then they would be placed in front of each other, still not being able to see anything. And the first action they would do would take the thing that was not allowing them to see. I don't know how you say that. The eye cover.
Like the blindfold, yeah.
The blindfold, thank you. Take the blindfold and look at each other. So the first act of this rebirth would be taking the blindfold and look at this person with who you're going to spend the rest of your life. This person you're promising, this new version of you, right? And I thought that's exactly what I want to do with Naomi. I want to go through that. I want to go through that with dancers around us that wash us. I want to dance with her, and I want to be blindfolded, and then I want to walk, and I want to take my blindfold out and tell her I love her, and that this is my promise to her, us together, despite it all.
Thank you.
Our love is underwater. I've cried all over you. Slow down, now we've grown. Let's start new. Our love lost in the forest, burning inside of you. Slow down, now we've grown. Let's start new. Sister, I had to tell you. Sister, hold me close. Swear you won't let go. Bounded by your love. I had to tell you. Sister, you're too close. Sister, let me go. Us despite it all. Dancing in front of the mirror, singing along with Shakira, washing our souls in the river, washing our souls in the river. Each find the future every day. Twins are the same, it's a cliche. Here's how you say it, eBay. Here's how you say it, eBay. Sister, 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 sister. My words are sometimes painful. I'm sorry I've hurt you. Slow down, now we've grown. It's all new. Sister, I had to tell you. Sister, hold me close. Swear you won't let go. Bounded by your love. I had to tell you. Sister, you're too close. Sister, let me go. Us despite it all.
love that. I was tearing up.
Now we got folks in the
I was
chat
actually
to cry.
actually getting emotional also watching it, and it's so funny because I look at it, the way we filmed it was so clever. The director, I really like him. You know, it's I've worked with director that while I was on set I was like, why am I doing this? Like especially the second album, there were some video clips I was like, I knew I had not learned to say no. And so I knew while picking the thing that it was not right. I knew while filming it that it was not right. And now I don't do that anymore. So I work with fantastic people. And while we were filming, and we were filming it like a real thing, so we would do the whole first part like all over again, but go through it always. It was not scene by scene, which made it feel real. And I told him, for me, the most important thing is that it feels real. And he has such good taste, because when I said I wanted to be a wedding, he was like, please don't tell me you want it to be like poofy dress wedding. Like, and I said, no, I want it to be like Janet Jackson kind of wedding. I want it to be suits. I want it to be like chairs. I don't know. He just got it, and it was really beautiful to get to do this. And it's also made me smile so much, because I see Naomi, like, it's our relationship in a nutshell, you know, me at the end turning to her and saying I love you, and her looking down the camera and not even saying it back. It's literally our whole relationship.
Not her withholding the I love you.
No, she's a tough cookie, and believe me, I know she loves me, like there's no doubt there. But yeah, she while we were, you know, discussing what we were doing and everything, she was like, it can't be too mellow, it can't be too. I was like, Naomi, this is a song about our sister, it needs to be a bit emotional. She's like, no, it needs to be not too mellow.
You can see it, because when you're sitting in the chairs and you're saying, this is how you say Ibeyi, like, you know, there's this like moment you could feel the intensity, and she has it, and then you mirror it. And then there's a softness that there is when you're laying on the ground and you're saying, you know, my words are sometimes painful. I'm sorry I've hurt you. And there's a softness, and then she mirrors it, right? Like there's some, and for me, those parts are so beautiful. Like, you know, as a cultural critic, I'm like always like reading and like sitting and like watching over and over the videos and trying to listen for those layers. But that moment where you have this intensity, you have the softness, and then at the end, when you take the blindfold off and you smile at her, it's so genuine.
It really was.
And then she stares at the camera and so intense, it's like so tough. You're like, oh no.
But that's also who she is. That's what I like also, you know, Naomi would never fake, which is something I love. And she couldn't turn around and be like, I love you too. It would have been the reality of who we are. Yeah. And so, you know, she always says to everybody, Naomi says to people, don't expect the same thing out of this band, because if you expect it, you might be disappointed, because we might go from the most bizarre music to the most pop, going through all of the genres. She said the only thing you can expect is it will be truthful with who we are at the moment we're making it. And I've never put out a song that I was not 100% proud of. And this is something that is really important, because there's so much pressure, there's so much time pressure, there's so much pressure to be liked, to be successful, to be able to continue just making, you know, to be able to earn a living so that you can continue making every day. And so having someone like Naomi that keeps you, you know, straight in your boots is really important. And also we're so lucky. I don't know how people do it on their own.
Yeah, it is. It's you know, it's like no one can get anything done on their own, right? We're always working in community, in relationship with others, and we're lucky when we're aware of it, and we're lucky when we know who we are in relation with, right?
Oof.
that is the moment, and many people don't know that, right? Like, or maybe don't realize or don't have it available, tangible, touchable for them. And so I think that, you know, part of our project, the Diaspora Solidarities Lab, is one in which we want to make strong relationships with others. We want to be in intersubjective relations with others, not just at the university, not just, you know, in these institutions, but outside of it, and being true to that. So many of us are Black women, Latina, so many of us are first generation, you know, first generation high school graduates and college graduates. Artists and photographers and all these things, right? And so when we're thinking about solidarity, we're thinking across the spectrum. And I think we've talked a lot about how your work just spans the spectrum. If you think about like solidarity, I don't know if that's a word that comes often to you as part of what you do. I mean, I see the solidarity work in what you do, but like, how would you reflect on something like diaspora and solidarity?
For me, it's about not gatekeeping knowledge, really. It's and about everything. So, for example, if someone comes to ask me something about the music industry, I'll always reply in the most honest way. If someone asks me a number for like PR manager, I always send. I think it's also about setting example yourself and stop criticizing others too, which is really hard to do because you look at people, you know, my mom said that to me one day. I was complaining and I was like, can you imagine this person who used to tell us that they loved our music now doesn't even have time to reply to a DM when I know they really are touched by our music. And then she looked at me and said, fair. When is the last time you replied to the DM to people that messaged you that like are also like not on the same level of the journey? And I had never thought about that. And so I went into all my DMs and I was like, hey, you opened for me like in 2022. I hope you're in 2002. I hope you're still doing well. And if you need anything, you know, I don't know. And there's so much more I could do. I'm saying far from it, you know, like, but also even on a personal note, taking away the music, I started real friendships in my mid-20s. I didn't know what, you know, that meant before, what it meant to have people around you that really you feel have your back. And you feel you can be your true self with, and you feel you can show true vulnerability and imperfection. And it just changed my life to be able to do that. So that's what solidarity is also finding people with who you can be your authentic self and have bad moments, to have moments where you fail and still feel like you're worthy of their love.
That's real. And the way that solidarity works on all of these levels, right? That kind of friendship, but also the kinds of pulling, right, others with you along the journey, right? I always think about the work of women of color, Black women, Latinas and Indigenous women, and the way that they always tended to each other's work. And often, so much of our work is pulling each other out of obscurity. Right? We pull each other up. And I think that is like, just your example, just like off the cuff, is like such a beautiful moment. Something as simple as like a DM, right? Something as simple as like, what is friendship?
I also think I'm realizing more and more and more the women that changed my life by example, by being the most authentic they could ever be. Sometimes it's not, they didn't do anything big. You know, I mean, to me, they didn't like mentor me or whatever, you know what I mean? It was not like I didn't have a relationship with them, but I did, because I looked at them every day and I learned from them every day. I also realized they were imperfect, and I was not looking at them for them to be my prophet, but I was looking at them for guidance, for mirroring, and they changed my life. They totally changed my life. It's sometimes it's the small things.
It's definitely the small things. And I want to ask you a little bit more about the symbolism in your music and how those things translate into like the writing and the symbolism and all that. So we have a question about Made for Gold. What are the significances and symbolisms in the imagery in particular, according to Black women, in particular to the spell, the history, and the gold? And how do you see all that coming together?
So Made of Gold is the name of the album. Sorry, Spell 31 is the name of the album, and it's the spell that we recite at the end of Made of Gold is this spell. So it says, "Oh, you with a spine, who would work your mouth against this magic of mine. It has been passed down in an unbroken line. The sky encloses the stars, and I enclose magic." And it's not only a spell of protection, it's a spell of declaration of magic. But not the kind of magic that everybody wants to have, which is just how I'm shining and everybody can see me. It's the deep magic that is passed through, right? The ones we all possess. The one that is in our veins. And so from there came the idea of Made of Gold, right? Like the feeling that suddenly my spell made of gold, suddenly like the spell, reciting the spell, your vein would turn gold, like liquid gold, and it being your armor, but also your power. Because sometimes armor can also be like a shield against you, even for you to like thrive, but that would be like an armor and your power. Also the idea of the ancestors and the idea that you're not alone, you're never alone. They're always there. They're always there with you, guiding you. And that how could you see their beauty and not yours? Right? There's that also. There's also something that I absolutely loved about writing this song is that I thought it was a love song for so long. Actually, not so long. It was a whole day, but it's not long. But in my head, it was a love song, you know, and it didn't work. It was the first day of the studio. Richard and Naomi had been in the studio for 2 weeks on their own doing beats. They had sat me down and showed me all of their beats, and I was supposed to come up with how to match the songs I had, which were ballads, with the beats that they had made. And they were beats, they were like reggaeton and funk and then house music. And it was like everywhere, which was fantastic, by the way. They were all really good, but I was just like overwhelmed. And then Naomi had this beat from Made of Gold, and she was like, "This one you need to write from the start. I don't want you to use any of your songs." And so I was like, trying to find out what the song was about. And the next day, Richard had the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is the book in which the spell is from. And he said, "Open the book." And when I opened it, it was spell 31. And suddenly it clicked. I was like, the song is not about that kind of love. The song is about the ancestor, the connection with the ancestor power inside of your own bones. And the spell is a protection for Naomi and I for this new adventure we're going to do. And the whole album is called Spell 31. And Naomi should say the spell at the end of the song. And they would turn and were like, "You sure?" And I was like, "I am so sure." And they were like, "Let's go." We wrote Spell 31 on the whiteboard, and that was it. That was the second day of the studio. It's one of my favorite lyrics I ever written, rewriting sacred scriptures so we could be together. I really love that lyric. I'm really proud of it. Yeah.
I think that there's something beautiful about the trust. Like you just told us a story, and there's like inherent trust in the process of making the music, where you're like, "I got it. This is it. This is what it is. This is the name of it. This is what the album is." And that everyone is like, "Yes, okay, we're on it."
Thank you so much for mentioning trust, because if you knew how much I doubt, you would. I don't know how we get there. It's like I told my grandma, actually, it's funny, while I was making the album, I said I constantly oscillate between despair and doubt and the biggest trust and like how do you say when you're so sure, and like confidence in the world. And I'm isolating into those two like constantly. There is no middle. And I guess that's what musicians and artists have, because you need to be sure and confident in order to ask people for their time, ask people for ask people to stop their lives and listen to your song. You need to know that you're giving them something that is good. But at the same time, to get there, there's so much doubt, so much. And actually, the doubt comes from the fact that we are trying to control the songs when the songs are already there and they're telling you who they are. But we are trying to make them into what we think is good. Yeah. And it's really hard to let go, of, oh, this song since the start were telling me that was the way it was. And I've been like doing a whole like tour of like trying to control it. You can't.
No, and especially not when the artistry, the music, the lyrics come from a deeper place. It's not only from you. Right? Yeah. It's from ancestors. It's from something. It comes so deeply rooted, right? That you can't control, right? You can't control it all. Yeah.
Oh, I know. Oh, not at all. You can't control almost anything. You can only show up. Yeah. They're actually quite patient with us, I feel, because they allow you to fuck up quite a lot until you get it right. I also think, I always summon them and I'm like, yo, if you want to write today, I'm at the piano. And sometimes they're not there. They're like, I'm tired or whatever. Or maybe I'm not doing the right thing. And I write shitty songs. And then sometimes they're there and it's insane. Like I wrote in 2 minutes.
What?
I literally wrote it on a little like piano, like, do you know the some piano?
Yeah.
Ding 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 ding
the little
ding 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 ding. In Cuba, even if I feel the sun on my skin every day, I wrote it in 2 minutes. I didn't even think it was good. I wrote it and I left. It was my way to and it's funny because I was crying so much that week and I wrote the song and I stopped crying. It was my way to mourn. Like, and I didn't realize what I was writing. And every time I perform, now I'm like, I know this was not me because it's so good. I'm like, there's no way. I was 17. There's no way I wrote this at 17.
What? You're blowing me away because Oya was one of my favorite songs on that first album. And I bought the vinyl and I played it over and over again. And I was going through some very difficult things. And also I had lost a baby and was mourning. And I would play Oya over and over and over. And then I started to, thinking through the song and playing it on my record player, I would start to paint. And I started to come back to my visual artist practice. I started to do art. And it was having that song. So it's incredible to me that you're thinking about mourning, right, in that song. And that it's something that came to you in that, because the connection, people can have different connections to song, but it was also a song that was so powerful for me and made me want to sit with it and write with it, but also to create.
Thank you. That makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. I actually feel so honored when people create with our music. I love when people dance on our music. I love when people give birth on our music. We now call them babies, which I think it's incredible that we can actually have a name for that, because we receive so many messages of people giving birth on our music. I especially, I remember, for example, I was invited to the archives of UCLA to see the twins. They have a whole collection of twins that was donated to them that they keeping and protecting. When I arrived into the preserved room, the first thing I saw was this sculpture. And I thought, I fell to my knees and I said, this is me. And it was a woman with holes everywhere and cowries placed in each hole. And it was made in metal. And I said, is this Betty Sar's art? And they said, no, it's her daughter's, which I thought was insane. First of all, the Betty Sar had a daughter, I didn't know. She has several, and they're all good artists. But the fact that I could feel the essence of the mother and the daughter in the art, but also the fact that I had always felt so connected to the art of the mother, and then finally felt so connected to the art of this lady, who then became someone I met, whom I love. She's called Alison Sarr, and I put it on Instagram, not knowing she had an Instagram, not knowing anything. I just posted it, and I said, I saw this, and just I can't even talk. It's like pure beauty. And she messaged me and she said, I listen to your music when I make art. And I can't tell, still this day, it was one of my happiest moments of having made art, because I felt, okay, if I created music that is used to create even more beauty, I think I can, I've done it. I've done it. Yeah.
Right. Oh, wow. What a gift. That is such an incredible gift.
So thank you for painting while listening to me and my sister.
Yeah. I know we're kind of running close on time. I don't know. We have questions in the Q&A. I'm not sure if you want to take just one of them.
I can take many. Yeah. Let's do it.
So maybe I can read, like, maybe I'll read like 3 of them and then you answer whichever ones.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So someone wanted to know what literature writers or creators are currently inspiring you.
That's really good. Wait, let me do that one. I can do them all really quickly.
Okay.
That one, many. This album, I've been really inspired by Belki Sayong.
Yes. Oh my God, her work is incredible.
I think she's one of my soulmates, and I've never met her, and she passed away when she was really young. But there's something that I feel when I look at Belki's work that I feel I rarely felt anywhere else. There's a sense of belonging, and I feel like her music, her art feels like our music. I don't know why, it just does.
But it's because she's also working in ritual practice.
Yes,
right? She's also observing, but not as a, she does it as an observer to a specific practice.
It's true also, because it was the abattoir, and you can't be a woman at the abattoir. So there's also this idea of a tiny bit of distance with it, but still being in it and understanding it and being consumed by it. And being it, because you cannot make that type of art if you're not it.
Yeah.
Which is really incredible. I've been really inspired by Frida my whole life, but the music video Made of Gold was inspired by a famous painting of Frida, where the universe is holding Mother Nature, who is holding Frida, who is holding Diego Rivera. And so I said to Naomi, we need to be held by the universe for our first song out. And she was like, okay. And then I called Pasalu, who is in the song of Sonny. I was so excited. I was like, do you want to come out of the belly of the universe? I was like, yes, let's make it happen. And then I'm also inspired by many writers. I've been reading Neruda. I've been reading Akweke Emezi. I've been reading Guadalupe Nettel. I've been reading, oh my God, so much. I've been reading Bell Hooks. My God, wait. What have I been reading lately? Yeah. Baldwin, I've been reading lately also a lot. Of course, Audre Lorde, but I mean, that's always. Yeah, a lot of them. I think I'm just I just love art. There's also a lot of sculpture artists that I love. There's a woman called Prune Nourri that I really connected with her work also. And obviously all of the Sarr family have been a huge influence on this album also for me.
Yeah. Tatiana, do you want to choose the next question?
Yeah, let me take one. Who would you want to work with next in your career?
Oh my God, so many people. And they from all walks of life and all types of artists, like painters, writers, musicians. Naomi always says she would love to work with Kendrick, which I would love to. I think we would make incredible music together. Trying to think. There's so many. Sorry, suddenly my brain's got blank because when you have to do list, it's really hard. But we feel that we've actually collaborated with a lot of people, but the music never came out. You know how it is. Like people do a lot of featurings and then it's like for a next album and or like something like that. So it never really saw light of day, but we learned so much collaborating with every single one of those people. We collaborated with a lot of rappers. It's so interesting how much you learn when you are in those sessions, and also how much you learn what people like about you and about your sound, because then they ask you specific things, which is quite interesting too.
So there's a question about this moment of thinking about doubt and self-doubt. And someone wanted to know if the music industry ever made you doubt trusting your ancestors and emphasizing your Yoruba lyrics and your specific sounds. Was there ever a moment?
I was so lucky because we got discovered by Richard Russell, who was a co-founder of Excel, the label that we got signed with. And we produced with him our album. He produced our album. So there was never a word of discussion about our sound. But also Excel is like that. If they sign you, it's because they believe in your sound. So they will never come to the room and be like, I think you should do something more poppy for the radio. Like they won't do that. I think they really believe in artists and their capacity of creating something different and something that sounds like them. So no, but saying that, I have felt immense pressure from the industry, of course, because you're too this, too that, never enough this, never enough that. You're too famous for some, you're not famous enough for others. You're too weird for some, but you're not weird enough for others. You're too, like it's crazy to the point that sometimes you don't even know who you are, because you're just like in constant, you've been told constantly what you are, who you sound like, what they feel on it is, on everything, we can't take you to the radio, and this radio because of this, and this radio because of that, and this magazine because of this, and this other magazine because of that. So the industry will make you doubt until the end, I think. And I have to say, I'm realizing, and I'm doing a big, like this time of my life is doing a big work on that and trying to really deprogram myself from this and realize also what I'm here for, and kind of take that voice out of my brain, which I never managed to. And part of that is realizing that the more I meet people that quote unquote made it, the more I realize they're still running. And then I'm like, why are they still running like I'm running? I'm like, why are they still worried? You're selling millions and millions of records. Because when you're at the top, you're still fucking worried it's gonna be taken away.
You can't stop.
You never, if you're part of it and you accept it, whatever happens, you can be at the fucking top. You can be the most selling artist in the world. The next record, you still will have to make a record that will sell more than what you sold. If not, you're seen as a failure by the music industry. So if you let this voice in, anyways, you're gonna lose.
Right. And I think one of them, maybe like a balm or a spell or maybe a cure, is the fact that you are with your sister in this.
Yes.
So many artists who are solo, who are alone, can probably feel that pressure and are dealing with those voices alone. But the fact that it's two of you together, the potential to balance that out, the potential to be able to see beyond that is so important. And I think you can see your albums are not, they're different. You can see the kind of evolving of your artistry, but it's not a kind of it's not the kind of thing that happens when people are kind of beholden to a record label and you have to sound like this and we need to get you on this and this and that, right? So there's something really beautiful about how you've been able to stay yourselves, to keep to like who you are in each, and show us more,
Yeah, And that I really think is the power of being the power of being really well surrounded, the luck also of having found the right people young, you know, having found this label young. But also now, like, you should try to bend my sister. I don't think it's possible. So now from the start, it would have never happened if someone would have gone to the room and said, I don't like this sound. She would have been like, she would have bit your head off. So it would have been impossible anyways. But we did find really good people, and we're able to surround ourselves with amazing, amazing people. And I think, to be honest, that's half of the work there. And sometimes you struggle years and years and years and years to just find the right managers, the right label for you, the right touring people for you, the right press people for you. Yeah.
There's some questions in the chat. I don't think we can probably get through all of them, but there's two kind of cool ones. And one is about what kinds of things you and your sister like to do together. And the other one is about fashion. So
Okay.
the other one says you're Cuban, born based in France. You have a career that has brought you to the US, to the UK. Do you take different fashion moments from these experiences and these spaces? And what are they? So that's that one. And then the other one about what do you like to do with your sister apart from music?
Okay, so the first thing what we like to do apart, when we're together, we're rarely together and not working, because then when we're not working, I'm in London and she's in Paris, because I live here and she lives there. But when then we're together with family, like at Christmas and stuff, our thing with our family is always listening to music, dancing in the living room and eating. It has always been the same. So that's what we would do together in family, you know, wait for grandma to cook us the most incredible meal and force feed us, and then dance and laugh and be really emotional on the couch all together. But then apart, for example, Naomi loves to paint. She also now is realizing she likes working with clay. She likes to do that on her own. And me, I like photography, and I like to draw. I draw really badly. It's not at all about the aesthetic of it. I draw like visions I have and stuff like that. So it's like, it's more the concept of it that I like than the actual drawing. I'm really bad. And for the fashion thing, oh my God, fashion is so fun. And I think it's only with this album that I realized that. Before, I was really against it. Part of it is because I'm not size model, so it was really hard for me. And every photo shoot, it was me being in a coat, because that was the only thing that fit me. When my sister could like literally wear the whole rack, and literally they just put me in the coat. It was quite sad. So I always would end up feeling worse about myself and in tears. But then now I feel like it could be such a moment, and it could be such a way to feel power and to tell the story, to really tell the story in ways that that excites you. And there's so much we have as ideas. Like Naomi and I talk a lot, for example, about Cuban fashion and stuff we see in Cuba that are normal, that our aunties do, you know, in the street, and how we can one day do a music video incorporating this. And we search for things and symbolism in fashion too. And every time we find something, then we're like, this is for this. We then link them to different songs. And yeah, French fashion taught us stuff that Cuban fashion couldn't teach us, or that American fashion couldn't teach us. So each part gives us something different. Yeah. I saw someone said, and the jewelry is so important for us. It's really weird, because I don't know where it comes from, but that's the first thing Naomi and I started to do when we earned our own money. We were like, we won't wait for anyone to buy us gold and diamonds. This is your time to ornate yourself and say, yeah, I don't know. And it's not stuff just to have it. we actually wear it. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's not because it costs money, or like it's like, oh, now I'm look at my big chain. It's not that. It's like, I think it's deeper than that.
Yeah. There's something really beautiful. I'm also thinking about like I have a chain of my father's who has passed away. I have his chain that he bought himself when he was a young man. It's a big gold chain with a big thing of the Virgin Mary, and and I think about like self-adornment, right? Like, and to take care of oneself and to love yourself, particularly in a world that does not love our Blackness, right? And to have that is so powerful. And someone here talked about your pink fit. They're like, what the pink fit is incredible. You talk about your pink outfit today.
I can't believe when you started the saying the bio, and you were like, fashion icon, oh my God, you should see how I dress every day. You would be so incredibly disappointed. It takes a team to make me look good. So I can't believe you like my pink fit. I'm really grateful that you think I look cool. But I genuinely enjoy it so much, and I think it's now becoming a way to create art and to tell stories, and I finally have the confidence to do it. And Naomi really patiently waited for me to feel confident to do it, and so we're having a lot of fun. And for example, I just remember when we did this shoot with Warren, and they wanted to do something totally like witchy, but and ritualistic, and they put us into those those contact lenses that are all black and all white. So I couldn't see anything, and for an hour we were photographed and dressed and moved, but we couldn't see anything. I couldn't even walk alone. And so it was also like, suddenly it becomes like a performance, doesn't it? Like everything becomes like a performance. And the dress was so heavy, I remember. I was just standing there. It was amazing. So it's beautiful.
And also the kind of lack of visualizing, you can't see yourself. So then maybe, did you feel more confident? Like did it you could just pose and not worry about what it looked like?
I felt like how can I explain that? Suddenly what I visualized in my head was happening outside because I couldn't see it. So especially because that whole photo shoot was about that, and it was about they created around you things that were moving. Suddenly I was creating them and I was seeing them. And reality was not even my problem because I couldn't see reality. So suddenly I was really moving things around me. And I love that. I love those moments where you can allow that to happen. And the dress and what helped. The heaviness of the dress helped. The makeup helped. The fact that I couldn't see helped. So I guess that's what I like, is suddenly there's all of the conditions to put you into that character.
So I because we have to kind of wrap up at this point, and I want to show the song Deathless. Can you talk a little bit about the story that came with the lyrics? Because I heard your quote about how even though something happened, it is in the past, but we, are here and we're deathless. And I kind of think that jewelry is the same way, because it's like you carry those memories with you wherever you go, and in a way that is deathless. So could you talk about that?
Deathless was so we were making Ash, the second album, and it was just we started the day Trump got elected, and so suddenly, the album couldn't not talk about some of the things we have seen in America, but also some of the things we were feeling also in Europe. And part of it was police brutality. And so I remember we heard Trump had passed, and then a few hours later on the radio, we heard another Black kid who had been shot in the streets. And we were at lunch, and Richard asked us if we had ever been arrested by the police in France, and Naomi said no, and I said no. And then I remember I had, And I remember they were so disrespectful and aggressive for no reason. And I was like 15, 16, like, but because I have my hair like I have it, and I was in a dungarees, they thought I was selling weed or whatever they thought. And they threw my things on the floor. They asked me to be barefoot on the platform. They asked me if I drank. I said no. If I took drugs, I said no, which was also true. And then they said, are you fucking kidding me? Like 3 centimeters from my face. And then they stopped when they realized that in my bag there was a piano Chopin partition. And I think I was reading War and Peace. So it was a fat book. And I think they suddenly were like, oh, she might be smart. So they gave me my empty bag and they left. And then I was on the platform and I was picking everything back up, thinking, I don't understand, because it's so dissonant. You're like, I didn't do anything. Like, why so much violence? I couldn't understand why. And also the humiliation of having to like pick up your tampons at people's feet and people being so ashamed that they didn't move, that they didn't say anything, that they can't even look at you.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was saying that to everybody, I was like, but that's nothing. I was not touched. I was not killed. I was not violently pushed against like the wall. That's nothing. And my sister said, it's already enough. And so from there, we were like, okay, let's start to build a song on that. And the idea of being deathless is also for that kid and for any kid, but it's also for the people around the kid, like the people that don't move in that freeze, for the people that have the power to in that moment change things, but don't feel like they're deathless, don't feel like they have like the power to change it. And we're all guilty of it, myself included, because it's so frightening when you see something happening. Your first instinct is like to run away, not to like, yo, what's happening? And also you don't want to get yourself in trouble and you get and see yourself killed. But America is so scary, man. I'm really conscious of that shit when I'm in America. Really, really, really conscious. When I drive with my friends, I'm always like, I'll be conscious to like, if I get arrested, I'll put the biggest British accent in my, I'm capable of. And, I don't know why. It's like, well, I know why. It's because you'll have like such a painful way of living. And so wrote Deathless. And then someone wrote, the first comment ever on our YouTube page was, they thought they buried us, but they didn't know we were seeds. And then it was perfect. I was like, this is exactly it. And every night we make everybody scream, we are deathless. And the feeling of a crowd roaring, we are dead. It's the most invigorating thing, because that second they really believe it. They really do. They feel it too. And you feel people around you believing it. It's amazing. And it always gives me so much hope. And then was looking for a music video called Ed, who did River. And I said, look, I know you're really busy, but please, that's the one song I can compromise on. And I really need something special. And he sent us a fax with that drawing, with like a stick drawing of Naomi walking, then sitting down, then giving birth to me, then me walking, then sitting down, then giving birth to Naomi, then Naomi walked. It was just a drawing in 2 lines. And I knew, I was like, I mean, this man is a genius, and this is exactly it. He understands us so well. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I hope I answered.
No, that's perfect. And it's perfect for so many reasons. And one is like, just the reality of the fear that we live with on the one end, right? Constant fear. And then on the other end, the power of art, the power of music to help us move through the world fearless, right?
And fear, like Nina Simone said, what's freedom? No fear.
No fear. Yeah.
No fear.
Yeah. And death is one of the biggest fears, right? So to imagine that
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
then how empowering is that, right?
Yeah, and especially because I don't fear death. I as soon as my dad died, I stopped fearing it. I think I feel protected by her. Also, I think she's by my side often. I sleep with a picture of her next to my bed every night. I genuinely think death is on our side always, even when it's the most complicated, incomprehensible timing ever. It's incredible how, when you look back at one point, you're gonna look back and it's gonna make sense. She takes people in the right time for them.
Okay, I'll start crying. Okay, let's segue then into Deathless.
Do you smoke? What's your name? Do you know why I'm here? She was innocent, sweet 16, frozen with fear. Whatever happens, whatever happened. Oh, hey, we are deathless. We are deathless. Whatever happens, whatever happened. Oh, hey, we are deathless. We are deathless. He said, you're not clean. You might deal all the same with that skin. She was funny looks with her books, left for dead in the streets. Whatever happens, whatever happened. Oh, hey, we are deathless. We are deathless. Whatever happens, whatever happened. Oh, hey, we are deathless. We are deathless. Whatever happens, whatever happened. Oh, hey, we are deathless. We are deathless. Whatever happens, whatever happened. Oh, hey, we are deathless. We are deathless.
It's just so powerful. It's incredible. Incredible.
Thank you.
Oh man, I just want to thank you for sharing this time with us today. This is more than I could ever imagine. You know, when someone had commented here, one of my colleagues commented that she'd been waiting for the day that we could be in conversation because she was with me when I was writing years ago, right?
Wow.
And it's so funny that I had never imagine to ever even reach out, to even bother y'all. I imagine, oh, they're artists, they're busy, they don't need to, they don't want to talk to us, you know what I mean? Like, they don't care.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful Nikki messaged you, because I remember when she told me she did. Thank you so much for your time and for everything you said, and for the conversation. I learned also while talking. I did realize stuff, and it was such a lovely moment.
No, this is incredible, and we're so thankful for this album. Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, shout out to Nikki.
Oh, Nikki! I didn't know she was there.
Nikki's in the house. And thanks to the entire team. And I know y'all are going on tour. Y'all, we did a tour already, but y'all are coming back to the US, and folks can go to your website. We're gonna drop the link in here.
Thank you.
And so they can see the tour dates and come see you. For those of you who haven't seen them in person, it is incredible, an incredible experience. And we are just thankful to have a bit of your time and the beautiful energy. We also want to send our love to your sister.
Yes, next time we need to do it with her, because next time you need to do it with her. Would be nice that you do. She probably will give you the opposite of everything I said.
Yeah, and thank you to Tatiana also. And I don't know, Tatiana, if you have something to say to wrap up as we wrap up.
No, this is just, I went to see you with my sister a couple years ago at Afropunk. So this is just so cute.
I loved playing Afropunk. We worked with the Brooklyn Choir. They are incredible singers, and it was such an incredible moment to be in Brooklyn, singing with the Brooklyn Choir, with the Brooklyn people. It was so good. You'll know how to just give the energy. It was really super special. I remember it like if it was yesterday.
Me too. That was incredible. Yeah, thank you for coming and like sharing all that with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And as part of the DSL, we have some events also coming up, some talks with writers, as well as some scholars, librarians, archivists, and we just are thankful to be able to work in solidarity across the spectrum, as Lisa had talked about earlier, and just to continue to do this work and to just amplify as many voices as possible. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, y'all.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.